Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome, ASI members and friends. In case you haven't joined us before for one of these open gatherings, every second meeting, which generally happens about every 6 weeks, we try to have a presenter and then we have a community meeting. And this one is a community meeting. Because the topic of shadow is close to all our hearts, in terms of we don't see what we don't see are our own blind spots. And this is where we need community, we need tools, we need each other in a supportive environment to help us to be better human beings. And so in order to guide and lightly facilitate this meeting, we have Kimberly Lafferty, who's on the board of the ASI, who is going to steer us towards exploring common understandings of what the theme is and maybe leave with some tools, hopefully, that can help us in our own lives. And so I'll pass you over to Kimberly. Thank you all for coming.
Everybody, great to be together and to see you all. Thanks, Jack, for that. It's an exciting topic, and I want to start us out with the scope of what we'll be doing. So you know, we're human beings and we like to feel safe and know what's coming. So this is a community meeting. I'll set it up a little bit with some common definitions and invite you always to comment in the chat box. I love a good sidebar. So feel free to add your own definitions, talk to each other. It's not taking away from the space. In fact, let's begin by go ahead and put in the chat box there where you're coming in from, where you are located on the earth, on this beautiful planet right now. Let's feel these connections like a diamond web between us, connecting us all through the earth and to each other. I'm coming to you from the North Cascades of North America, deep in the mountains. I also invite you, since this is a community meeting, to turn on your video. You don't have to, of course, whatever works for you. And welcome those of you who will be listening later as well, calling you into this space with us. So I'll talk a little bit, like I said. I'll invite some journaling at different points, and then we'll go into breakout groups as well, and then cycle back and go through that over the next 90 minutes, because this really is a conversation. I have my own lineage of what shadow is, which includes both Western and Eastern traditions. And many of you here are also experts. So don't be shy to also contribute from a place of experience and also contribute deeply from a place of coming together as spiritual teachers. Those who self-identify as spiritual teachers, probably most of you are here for that reason, to have an opportunity to heal together. And to start that vibe, I want you to just look at everybody on the screen right now. Go ahead and put it in gallery view if you haven't yet. And if you're watching this later, you can imagine different people in your life. But I want you to look at all of us as if we were these little baby animals, you know, like the cute puppies and the cute kittens. Or look at that person right there. Imagine them as just this cutest little baby. And can you do it until you feel your heart bloom. We were all just these precious children once. It's almost like we can hold each other in our arms. Can you feel that when you look at these faces? This sense of openness and love, like baby animal love. You know, sometimes we feel it on easier than other days, right? But you can't help but feel it when you look at like a baby elephant playing, or just a little puppy, or a child that you're close to. And that's the attitude we want to have when we approach shadow work. Because we're going to be looking at parts of ourselves and also maybe in the world. And we always want to approach shadow work from a place of unconditionally loving presence. That's like our seatbelt. So Carl Jung often gets credit for the word shadow, although earlier theorists and psychologists certainly talked about it. Freud talked about the subliminal. William James talked about it in other language. But Jung defined the shadow as the unconscious aspects of our personality, which the conscious ego does not identify as itself. You often get that metaphor of an iceberg, right? And we see what's on top of the ice is our consciousness. But all that hidden stuff under the ice, it could go for miles, right? Is our unconscious. And that's one simple way to think about it. One definition that's very Jungian as well, which I like, and always using shadow, giving credit to Jung, is persona. And this is a good thing to put in the chat box. Plus shadow equals ego. So persona, in simple terms, is the part of ourself, of myself, that I present to the world, and also that I admit to myself. So if you were to answer the question, I am, right? That's our persona. It's what we're presenting. Most of you know this. Persona plus shadow. Shadow is the stuff that we don't see. Right? That's the definition of shadow. It's more than just the unconscious, right? The unconscious could be sort of general unconscious, but shadow, and we'll define different types of shadow in a minute, are these aspects of our individual personality that we don't want to admit, we don't see, or maybe later as we mature, we see them, but we just can't seem to get over them, right? So shadow, or persona plus shadow equals ego. When I'm using the term ego here, in this context, and you'll have your own definition of it, I don't mean it in a negative way, like, oh, ego so bad. No, I mean ego it's a neutral term. It's persona plus shadow, okay? And you can think of it like an identity. And that identity happens to go through different deaths, if you will, and rebirths and integrations as we grow from birth to death. So that's one way to think about shadow. We have often seen shadow arising, we see it in ourselves arising as impulses or mental stories or voices or behaviors that are often defensive states or just amplified emotions or sometimes shut down emotions. Shadow, the way we're talking about it here, is often related to earlier events and patterns in relationships that are self sort of devised. Our persona, our ego said, oh, I'm going to devise this mechanism to adapt to a challenging environment. Keith Witt talks about shadow also. He's a great theorist on shadow. I could recommend his book, Shadow Light. Talks about destructive shadow and constructive shadow. You see this other places as well. Destructive shadow being a way that we just, have weaknesses and mistakes. And we can transform that by looking at these habits and using approaches, which we'll talk about and share. I'd love you all to share, to heal those noticings of mistakes and weaknesses. There's also constructive shadow, which are our gifts that we also project onto others and are denying about ourselves. And so we can heal constructive shadow and work with it by discovering our strengths and really owning them. And it really begins with awareness. This itself is a mature capacity from a developmental psychology view, from the view of adult development and the research that's been done. I want to recognize that one begins to see one's shadow when you can rest in awareness and look at your own thoughts and feelings and behaviors. And so it's a skill set that takes practice of really zooming out and looking at one's interior state. So it can be challenging for people. So I invite you to pull out a piece of paper and a pen or pencil. You can type it if you'd like, but there's something powerful about writing it. And based on what you've just heard, how would you define shadow for yourself? And you likely come with your own definitions already and understandings. What is shadow to you? And if you need a prompt, you could say, shadow to me is, and finish that sentence. Beautiful. We have some beautiful comments coming in. Keep writing if you're still writing. I see some of you are. Jeffrey, shadow is that which others say I have, but which I firmly deny having. Absolutely. You want to know your shadow? Ask your partner, your best friend. Deborah, shadow is what I wish to keep hidden. Yes. Rick, shadow is the inability to see ourselves as others see us. And moreover, as an omniscient observer would see us. Renata, parts of the personality rejected by the ego. There are so many coming in, I can't even keep up. Shadow to me is a compensation learned mechanism. Sandra, thank you. Kalika, shadow as my blind spots, which are mirrored in and through my relationships and interconnected with all of life. Tom Murray, what others can see about me that I can't. Amara was surprised. Yep. Mara was surprised by her own answer. St. Teresa of Avila said, you know it's from God and not the devil if it surprises you. Let's see. Tara, what I am unaware of that I am expressing. Yes, often. So many beautiful definitions there. Right. So let's break it down a little further. In sort of a comprehensive view of shadow, and we'll categorize shadow in 3 ways and then practice with it a little bit And then come back and I'll invite you all to raise your hand and share your wisdom that's come through, because clearly there is so much wisdom in the room and we want to make sure that we share that. One, there are 3 types of shadow, and this is just one way to categorize shadow. It's a useful learning exercise. And the first person I saw not make up what these are, but categorize this in this way was Kim Barta, who is a great shadow practitioner. And Kim Barta said we need to talk about 3 different types of shadow when we're actually working to heal them. And the first one is what we usually think of when we think of shadow, and that's projections. Now, I mean projection here, and like a small p projection, not a big P projection that we could talk about if we went into a conversation of non-duality, okay? That's a conversation for another time. But small p projection in terms of an extruded is the word, extruded material that I place on others. So many of you said it so beautifully in the chat box. Projections, small p projection, is taking information that is true about ourselves, like meanness, like something we're saying or thinking or behaving, and unconsciously, blindly projecting that onto other people. Now, we project all the time with a capital P, but this is not admitting, not only are we projecting they're bad, not me, they're stingy, not me, they're rude, not me, they're putting this like dividing line in reality. This quality is arising in my world. Can't be me, it's got to be you, right? And the stronger that we react to both golden and hidden shadow, the more indication that it's there. Like if we have an overreaction to somebody and we're sure that it's them, not us, guaranteed to find shadow material, right? If we have an overreaction to somebody, both negative and positive, we can have what we call golden shadow, right? Where we give all of our best gifts away and put it onto other people. And what's interesting is when we small p project, when we're doing these projections, it's you, not me, we get this illusion of relief because we don't have to own something about who we are that we don't like, but it costs us our power, actually, and it increases harm of self and others. We're actually putting this out into the world and creating this division. It's like the opposite of wisdom, and I do it all the time. This isn't about pointing fingers. There's something sort of baked into perception where it seems like it's coming from out there and not coming from in here. And it can be really difficult to own projections. Anybody? It can be painful. It's right. It's beautiful, but not pretty. And I notice in myself and in students over the decades, there are some people who stop here. It's just too painful to look and own, right? But when we do, what's the result? Incredible freedom. So I invite you to feel into where we have done this, where we see projection in our life arising. I see it in myself in being blaming, anytime I blame my husband for the messiness of the house, pretty much, because I really don't want to admit how messy and unorganized I am. It's still there. I still have to work on it. It's still going on, but that is just a classic everyday example. Projections come up in our close relationships. And this is my belief system, but it's like an earlier self, a younger version of Kimberly in this case, just calling out for healing. That's what it is. And so we approach looking at these parts of ourselves where we project with baby elephant love. Okay? So that's your ground. This isn't about beating yourself up. This isn't about feeling bad. This is about turning towards and seeing what we're doing already with care and love. So I would like you to pull out that journal, pull out that paper, and write for a few minutes, and then we're going to put you into breakout rooms, my friends, so breakout people can get ready. Where do I project in my world? Where am I? And if you need help finding it, think of that one person who really drives you mad, okay? And start to dig around in there, like just sort of irrationally mad. You could never be that way, right? And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to journal, and then you're going to go into groups to discuss, okay? Welcome back. So I would love to hear your learnings. So go ahead and raise your hand if you have something coming through. Again, I'm sure that to do the Quaker lineage of this is if you feel called and the wind moving through you to share for the group, please do. If you do not feel that deep call from the collective, please don't. And I also invite you to share your what you learned, also keeping in mind that we are spiritual teachers, and maybe we can begin to take a little context of what it's like and what our experience is like as those who identify as spiritual teachers as well. But whatever arose for you, there's so much wisdom in this room. I'm talking to you, you know it, you know I'm talking to you. So go ahead and get your hand raised and we'll get a nice lineup going. Celia, thanks for being the first. Would you like to share?
Thank you, Kimberly. Hi, everybody. My name is Celia. I wanted to bring this from our group. It was an interesting piece where one of our group members shared, and what came up was this idea of, I'm actually not hearing projection here. I'm actually hearing boundary and something like, I have a need that I'm not meeting, or I'm not asking someone else to help me meet. And that is a very different thing. And it can sort of perhaps be disguised as projection because I'm irritated or I'm upset or I'm judging. But actually there's a need I have that's not being met. So that was a really interesting distinction that we discussed in our group. And I thought it would be important to share that. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Celia. Sometimes there's that need and it's a boundary that we're setting. What happens when you know you're projecting? When you've awoken to that and you still see things, right? Too. What happens then? So beautiful. And I don't have the answers for these, right? This is group, so others that might bring something up for you want to respond to, go ahead and get your hand up. Tara, I'd love to hear from you. Hi.
Hi. I am just sensing how powerful this exercise could be, was, and could be as a shadow developing tool. Like a few more rounds, I could feel how the depth was building as we were going around and each person was sharing. And there was some discussion, like the example that was just given. But I could also feel, wow, this could be amazing, like a peer support group, an entire hour where we just did like 3 or 4 rounds of sharing our shadows with each other. That's it. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tara. I got the full body chills on that one. Sounds wonderful. Jeffrey, love to hear from you.
Let's see if I can pull that back into clarity. In regard to whether something is a projection or is it an expression of boundary protection, I really like that we had an option to perceiving it as has a projection of shadow there, because that's what I do all the time. I'm thinking, wait a minute, these suckers have the right to spend trillions of dollars on bombing people in other countries, then I have the right to get upset about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's my justification for it.
Yes, I feel the parts of me that can relate with that. Thank you so much. Rick, give us your wisdom.
I don't know about that, but in our group, Denise Lapidus brought up an interesting point about being judgmental versus being discerning. And, she was wondering whether she had been judgmental about, well, I'll let Denise explain it. She should chime in, but I just added to her comment that spiritual groups need a lot more discernment and discrimination. If they had it, then we wouldn't have so many problems with cults. But that doesn't have a negative connotation. It's not the same as being judgmental. And maybe Denise would like to say something, or let her go.
No, you said it great. I mean, we were just talking about, like I said, one of my shadow parts was like always feeling like I'm judgy and trying to really break that down, granulate it. And they helped me understand that an experience I'd had, as a teenager, it wasn't that I was judgy. I actually was using clarity and discernment. And that really helped me just blow out a whole piece of myself that I had been kind of holding in the shadow for a long time. Thanks, guys.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much. Sandra, love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll ask my team to add if I miss anything, but I think that it's really important to share the gist of what we talked about. We shared our own individual shadows. I think they were a little bit more on the superficial level, for the team, although they were important. But then all of a sudden we reached this place where we all understood grief as a shadow work, and grief as, and I think one of our team members said, this business of living, and I'm going to add of loving, this business of living and loving is a big loss on the journey to awareness or to awakening, peeling off the layers, right? And so it's part of the shadow work, or just part of that foundational work that we have to go through to get to know why we're here and move forward in the journey. It was powerful. It was powerful.
I feel so happy to hear you say that. Thank you so much for that. And the journey is not, it's a challenge. I mean, the first time I ever taught a shadow course, I just called it Shadow Warriors, because it really does take something, right, to either despair, or maybe it's opposite, to pull us forward to look at these pieces and parts that have been hidden. Melinda, I'd love to hear from you.
Hello. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the golden shadow. I hadn't heard that definition before. So we discussed it in the group a little bit, but I just wondered if you had is that something you've come up with, or is there a reference that comes from?
If you're a teacher who's happened to write a recent book about this topic on shadow, or anything else like that, feel free to put any resources in the chat box for that. Different people talk about golden shadow in different ways. I'm going to cut to the chase and say, talking about it archetypally, as your gifts and qualities, one's gifts and qualities that are getting, if they're golden shadow, projected onto other people, who do you turn into a fangirl around, or a fanboy? I mean, think about it. Who would you completely freak out if you were in their presence, because they're so wonderful, they're so over the top, they do such this extraordinary thing that you could never do, right? That can fill you into your golden shadow. It's these qualities that are constructive and gifts for the world that we have disowned as well.
So that would be a classic projection with like a guru or something like that. That
yeah,
you place
anybody
them up on the
right
on
and
the pedestal.
which is why I'm speaking as Kimberly on behalf of myself, but as I always tell friends and students, a real guru will always point you back to yourself while also being able to stand in their power of transmission at the same time. Always pointing it back to you. So yes. And how often do we as spiritual teachers, any other spiritual teacher ever feel projected on out there from your students? Anybody? Like we have to have the wisdom to understand what the projection is and constantly be reminding students while using it to help people, right? Not denying any skill set we might have, right? So it's tricky. And we at ISI want to give us all support for this. This is what we're doing. Like we want to support each other in this beautiful, sometimes precarious journey of being human, and particularly being a spiritual teacher, a somehow self-identified spiritual teacher being human. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other definitions of golden shadow? Yes, please put it in the chat box and raise your hand and contribute to the conversation. Eva, love to hear from you.
Yeah, I just want to say something very simple to the golden shadow. I like to tell people if I feel they're starting admiring me, in a way that doesn't seem quite right, then I like to say, if you see beauty in me, it is your own beauty you see. And it's very simple, but it's easy to remember.
So beautiful. Thank you. Amara, love to hear from you.
I loved that last bit, and that's something that we went into in our group. I think she was in our group. So mine was a golden shadow, and I came in saying, mine's really dark. Mine's really dark. And then I found myself describing a golden shadow. And then once everybody had shared it, came back and said, wait a minute. No, it's a golden shadow. It still feels very uncomfortable in the system. So that was surprising for me. I hadn't noticed that. So I just wanted to share that. It's funny that the golden has come up so much. But yeah, we clarified. We spent a little time on that, actually, on what is golden shadow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else feeling called? We'll come back to you later. I wanted to.
There's a lady down there who's raising her hand who wants to. Yeah.
I don't see. Let's see. Who is it?
Sorry, I don't know how to use the raised hand function.
Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering if we were going to talk about, once we see the projections, what to do with them.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do a meditation at the end that will be a tool for you, and one possible but very powerful method. There are also other great resources for how to reintegrate and re-own shadow projection in particular. The healing method this is a perfect transition, so thanks for asking the question. The healing method for when it's a projection, a small p, not big P, small p projection, is to re-own it, right? To say, okay, that inappropriate boundary, not appropriate boundary, right? But that refusal for me to see the truth that when somebody walks in the room and I have feelings about them, I'm looking at my feelings. I'm not actually looking at a person. And this is wisdom, right? Like this is the wisdom that shadow brings. I'm actually experiencing my feelings. And where do those come from? me. So I have to own it. And so how we heal projection, small p projection, is we re-own it. There's good methods out there. I think Byron Katie, I'm not an expert with Byron Katie, but there are aspects of her re-owning that really work for a lot of people. Integral theories, 3-2-1 method, Gestalt method, parts work, different sorts of parts work works really well for this. However, if the shadow is an introjection, so let's transition quickly. I'll say a few things about this, not very long. But another way we categorize shadow in 3 different ways, just to create some distinction, is first, small p projection, something in me that I'm putting out there. An introjection. So an introject shadow is when happens most common. It can happen all throughout our life, but in our first months, up until about 18 months old, because at this stage of our consciousness, we are in a purely receptive stage. And everything that we perceive out there, we perceive literally as us, okay? From prenatal up until 18 months or so, okay? And up and actually like 3 and 4, introjects also come in very, very strongly, okay? And because we're just wide open, like we're being told who we are, we're being told what everything is. This is a cup. We're absorbing language. We're literally, think about it, as a baby is being told the building blocks of reality. This works like this. This is a pencil. You write with it. You are a little beautiful person, and I love you so much, right? Or you are a little stinky shit at 1 year old. Those ideas get introjected and built as how I think about myself. Okay. And so there's things about us that in this context are like lies. Okay. So it could be ancestral too. You know, like our family does things this way, so that's the way you need to be. Okay. And the reason that introjects are very common in early childhood is we cannot yet change or develop our own belief system about our environment. That's far away. That doesn't happen really till high school. Okay. So we're left to interpret our world, our home, our reality through this filter that may or may not be true for us. So I remember in my case, true story, just speaking as your peer, Kimberly, you know, I was told from when I was really young, you're so independent, you know, by my primary caregivers, like the women in my life, my Nana and my mother. Oh, you're so independent. This story I would hear again and again. We would go and hug you and you would walk away. Or, you know, if we chased you, the way we got you to pay attention to us is if we ignored you, then you'd come cuddle. These stories I was told growing up, which was validly my Nana and my mother's experience, perhaps, right? But I was told, you're independent, you're independent, you're independent. And I introjected that idea, and kind of cold, it sounded like, right? I'm cold and independent. And I took that idea and it's like, that's Kimberly. And it took me 40 odd years to realize that that's nothing like me at all. I was actually it's kind of sad, that's dismissive, avoidant, classic attachment style. If those of you who know, like I you know, it was me adapting to an environment, but I didn't feel independent. I didn't feel cold. And once I realized that was kind of a lie, not in a mean way, but just some story, right, that I was told about myself that didn't feel true at all. Anything I've accomplished in my life has been with deep interdependence. I also have an incredible amount of inner resources, and I'm very happy alone. That's also true, right? But it wasn't me being independent. So that's an example. And here's the thing I want you to consider. With introjects, when you start to dig into these ideas and these shadow practices, an introject, the way you heal it is not by re-owning it like a projection. You heal it by letting it go, right? And so methods that tend to work for that, because you're also dealing with often early childhood stuff where these ideas come in before their story, before they're even memory. They're in our body often. You know, they're shadows that you can't reason your way into, really, because they're early. And so some different somatic work, light work, cleansing work. I'm sure many of you have beautiful practices for releasing shadows that are interjects, like independent Kimberly is just, that's not me. Or ancestral stuff that I've been told I am, that's just not me. Breaking the chain, right? It's just not me. So consider that. And I'm looking at my time. Don't try and re-own and interject. And don't try and let go of a projection, okay? That's the wisdom out there that seems to be helpful. I'm going to go to the second definition third type of shadow, just to introduce it, and then we'll open it up, talk for a minute, and close with a meditation. This is a big, long story, but it's called split ego states. And these are when, you know, these things are just seem to come out of nowhere, right? They're forced upon us. It's like parts work or internal family systems where there's two voices going on in our consciousness that we are aware of. Split ego states are like the devil and the angel. Okay, it's when there are two internal parts inside of you that are arguing with each other. Okay, self-hatred is a form of this. So that voice that beats yourself up, you're such a jerk. Why did you do that? That voice, you're such a something derogatory. And that other voice that comes in and goes, oh, no, you're not, you're fine. You know, you're such a jerk. You're so lazy. Oh, no, you're not. Just go, take it easy. Or you wake up tomorrow and part of you wants to do your to-do list and the other part of you wants to watch Netflix and eat the brownies, right? And so what happens, again, this is a long story, you know, there's whole courses. I taught a 20-hour course on this last year, right? It's a big topic, but it also is a mature capacity, I have to say, spiritual teachers, to be able to recognize this interior chorus that's going on inside and begin to discern that these voices are actually what we call ego states or subpersonalities or archetypes, or something like internal family systems. We've got the fixer voice, we've got the bully voice, we've got the voice of our dad, the voice of our mom, guaranteed. We've got, you know, different shadow personas propping up, and then they're in conflict. Okay. And the way to integrate and heal split ego states is to be in conversation with them, determine whether sometimes there's a projection hiding under them or one of them is an interject that you need to let go. It's a complex matter, but to engage in parts work. For those of you who are familiar with parts work, like I'll say again, internal family systems is a great way to heal and integrate split ego states in particular. Those different parts of you that aren't singing the same choir, right? A song and the choir are not on the same team. And the job with working with that is to get them on the same team. Let go of who needs to let go of, integrate who needs to be integrated, get everybody on the same team for team you, benefiting the world. Okay? So that's a lot. I want to open it up again to any general sharing you'd like to do, your own definitions of things, what that might raise for you in the context of spiritual teachership, in particular, we've got a few minutes for your wisdom to come through, and then we'll do a meditation contemplation. Oh, okay. David Spector.
Hello, thank you. Well, I hope you don't freeze during this. So it seems to me that we're getting down. I appreciate all of these analyses because they sometimes are extraordinarily helpful. When somebody realizes something, there can be a point of recognition and a transformation that happens from it. But having said that, we are dealing with an illusion, the illusion of Maya, the illusion that we are separate selves, the illusion that I am either important or I am useless, the ego. All of this differences, the field of differences, the field of never achieving full happiness, or when you achieve full happiness, it doesn't last. All of this is called the relative life. I don't hear anything in this meeting about the other side, absolute life, the life of freedom, the life of joy, the life of happiness, the life of love, the life of creativity, the life of intelligence. And all of this is natural. It isn't constructed by the mind. In fact, the mind doesn't have to be there at all. There could be just awareness without the mind, free of problems, free of all of these difficulties that are so complex to analyze and so difficult to deal with. Just let it all go. And if you have good teaching, you find that there's a way that in just a few moments, you can expand your horizons and let go of all of that and just experience awareness. And awareness is what we all have. Everyone has awareness. And there's only one awareness. It doesn't have qualities. It doesn't have differences. It's just completely satisfied, happy, joyful. I'm missing that in all of these presentations. Sorry.
Well, thank you so much, David, for bringing that in. Jerry?
Let me see, what was I going to say? Somewhere on the ASI website, there's an essay called Why There Are No Perfect Teachers. And I would invite you to go and take a look at that. It's from a more traditional angle, from the angle of some traditional Sanskrit writings about what's called Lesha Vidya, or the faint remains of ignorance that persist. And this idea that there's a shadow goes back centuries and millennia, and is left out from the understanding of what enlightenment is or what a teacher is. Everyone has shadow material. Anyway, that essay is there, and if you're curious, go take a look at it. I don't know where exactly, I think it's buried a little bit, but look around the ASA website and see if you can find that essay, Why There Are No Perfect Teachers.
Teachers, are you kidding? Impossible. No, of course. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank all of the gods about that. And maybe we can put that, there it is. Thank you for putting the link in there, Chris. Go ahead and also put other shadow resources that you might offer. I have a course that on my website, Confluence Experience, that I taught. Many of you have books specifically on shadow or courses. Please feel free to put those in there. We're going to close this last 10 minutes, 9 minutes with a contemplation, a gift for us all, that of course, all relative and ultimate are inseparable, and they arise together. So I invite you to close your eyes, find your breath. This is a tool you can take with you, and also it is not copyrighted. Please feel free to share it with others. So slow breathing in and out in a rhythm. Let your breath lead. And as you settle in, direct your attention to what you are feeling in your body. Direct your attention to what you are thinking as you hear me. To what you are wanting or judging. Just observe whatever is arising in body and mind with loving acceptance and caring intent. Be the awareness, pure awareness of loving acceptance and caring intent. Now, think of somebody you feel critical of or irritated by. You find threatening. But this time, observe yourself being critical or irritated with loving acceptance and caring intent. Again, somebody you're irritated by walks in the room. You naturally, it's okay, feel critical, but observe yourself being critical with loving acceptance and caring intent. Now, think of an aspect of yourself that you are critical of. Maybe your body or your temper, a shameful secret or a guilty pleasure. What are you self-critical of? But this time, you are awareness, loving awareness that observes yourself being critical or ashamed with acceptance and caring intent. Again, what are you self-critical of? That arises in loving awareness. holding light and dark simultaneously trains us in inner attunement and healing. Find another critical thought about yourself and see it arise as the witness, the loving witness, with loving acceptance and baby elephant intent towards the self. Good. Begin to inhale and exhale. Taking that loving witness, unconditional presence back with you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fully present and here. Take your time. So that is a practice of ultimate and relative arising at once, and how we can get those inner parts really out into the open. They'll only come out with love and care. So thank you so much for joining us in our community conversation. This is just the beginning of this. If you're interested, let us know. Maybe you'd like to see a webinar about the shadow. If so, maybe you can put a comment in the chat box. It is quite an extensive topic with many great practices and practitioners out there with much wisdom. So, Jack, would you like to say something in close? Not to put you on the spot, but...
Sure. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, everybody, for coming forward within yourself to recognize the importance of this topic. And, you know, when we work as spiritual leaders, we have this default expertise to notice somebody else's shadow. And we need to have a mirror to ourselves. This is how we can change the culture of spiritual leadership. And that's what we want to do with these community meetings and webinars. So you will hear more about this topic, because we were delighted that over 100 people registered for this one. Also, though, 5 of that 104 registrants made a donation. We do have an administrator who gets paid every month, and we do have a lot of costs associated with the website, even though the bulk of us all, of course, work for free and cover our own expenses. However, ASI itself as a core organization very much needs funding. So if you're able to put some value through some loose change that's in your pocket, please go ahead and click the donate button on the website after this. It will help to continue the work. Thank you all. And the YouTube for this the link when it's on YouTube will be emailed to you, together with information, hopefully on the next webinar. We hope to further explore this topic. Thank you all, and thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you all. Feel free to pop on and say goodbye. Sending baby elephant love to all of you from my heart to yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kimberly. So good to see you. It's Lilia from California.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. It was amazing.
Thanks, everybody.